The record says perfect, but not a whole lot otherwise speaks of perfection for Miami football right now. The Hurricanes go on the road to North Carolina. They prevail or survive or scratch through and get on the bus at 24-19. The Canes are now 7-0. So some people will call me a hater after this video, but there's not a whole lot to like right now. The defense looks good. They played an inferior North Carolina team. They played one of the most beat-up football teams that you will ever see. So North Carolina started this season having lost all that NFL talent. We know the wide receivers, Ryan Switzer, Mac Hollins, etc. We also know the quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky. We know that this was going to be a down year anyway. Elijah Hood also left early for the NFL draft. Okay, so North Carolina's down. They're 1-8 now. They're a 1-8 football team. They have fought hard against a number of teams, decent teams this year. We thought Louisville was going to be really good. They've turned out not to be, or getting blasted by Wake Forest right now. So North Carolina has fought against some teams, but they typically collapse in the fourth quarter or in the second half and get blasted off the field. Okay, North Carolina's won one game, and that was outside the conference to an FCS team. Miami should dominate these kind of games. A championship team would. I'm not going to overreact. I still think Miami's got enough talent and the coaching pedigree of Mark Richt to pull things together. Manny Diaz, an exceptional defensive coordinator, and his unit is basically doing the job. Not that they couldn't improve as well, because they had some letdowns, certainly on the perimeter against running quarterbacks in this game. Okay, the Canes, of course, take on Virginia Tech next week, but let's look at this one because, again, I won't overreact because we can look at championship teams, and I don't know that Miami's going to vie for a national championship, so let's scale it down to division or conference championship. We see teams winning division and conference championships every year and either losing to inferior teams or just barely skating by teams. We can go through a zillion examples of this happening right now in the Pac-12. USC is most likely going to win the South Division, and we've seen what the Trojans have done on occasion. They got blasted by Notre Dame last week. But when we talk inferior foes, Washington State may win the Pac-12 North. They lost to Cal 37-3 a couple weeks ago, or it's going to be Washington most likely winning the North Division, and they lost to a mediocre Arizona State team. If we're thinking college football playoff, yes, Clemson, the classic example, winning the national championship last year, they lost to a decent Pitt team, 43-42. Clemson may get back to the national playoff this year, and they lost to Syracuse, a marginal team on the road. Ohio State made the playoff last year. They got by a woeful Michigan State team that finished at 3-9 on a failed two-point conversion. So these kind of games happen, but Miami's playing like this just about every week. Now we know that Florida State's not really that good. They got blasted by BC 35-3. So the Florida State win loses a lot of luster. Duke was an undefeated team when Miami beat them. Duke is very flawed and not very good. All right. The things that are worrisome and should be concerning to Miami fans heading to this Virginia Tech game that will most likely decide the Coastal Division Championship would be that Malik Rozier did not do his typical bad first half, lights out second half. He did a bad first half and even worse second half. The stats don't look awful. This was one of the worst 356-yard passing performances I've seen. He hit on, 16 of 35 and threw the one interception. Could have thrown other interceptions. One was called back due to a pass interference, and that was a key play in the fourth quarter. He, of course, his statistics benefited from long runs after the catch by Christopher Herndon, Jeff Thomas on the 76-yard play right off the halftime intermission, and those type of plays in the passing game. So North Carolina comes in with 18 major injuries. We take it from the top here. Miami, one of the worst red zone offenses in college football, one of the worst third down, I should say, offenses in college football coming in, 112th in the nation, 32%. That didn't do much. They didn't do much better in this game. Jordan Brown had the 56-yard run that put Miami on its heels. North Carolina converted a couple of field goals. It was 6-0. Miami had the one explosive play in the first half to make it 7-6. That was the Christopher Herndon play in which he got loose, broke past two would-be tacklers to make it 7-6, and that was our halftime score. Jeff Thomas up top, 76 yards. We thought the Canes would break free as a 21-point favorite in this game. R.J. McIntosh, we saw him on the defensive side all game making plays. He has had an exceptional season. I haven't seen every game, but I've seen the big games against Georgia Tech. This game, the Duke game, most of the Florida State game. R.J. McIntosh is defensive MVP for me right now. Malik Rozier did deliver on a 3rd and 7, but as was stated numerous times in this game, the wide receivers bailed him out. They didn't make exceptional catches, but they had to adjust to the football. They could have caught the ball and run with better passing. He missed the bullseye. He got it on him at some point. They had to reach behind them. Berrios caught a couple passes in which he had to go to the ground to catch the football and preserve the catch. UNC went through a spell here in the third quarter, and this is the Miami defense more than anything, but UNC's a mess on offense. They had a 14-play sequence in which they gained 5 yards. This is where Miami should have taken control of the game. They constantly got it in Carolina territory and could do nothing with it. They had the blocked punt that turned into just a field goal. They were deep in North Carolina territory on that one. Time and time again, UNC committed mistakes. Miami couldn't take advantage. The defense would take it away. You had the interesting play that North Carolina had nothing to play for here. They could have just pulled out all the stops, and they did on occasion. Of course, Radcliffe Williams had the Bo Wallace, Ole Miss, Bo Corrales touchdown pass on the halfback swing pass behind the line of scrimmage backward, and then to Bo Corrales. I don't know where this kid has been the entire season. He caught his 3rd pass of the season. It was a beautiful hands catch in which he outfought the defender. That was his 3rd catch of the season. And then later he was on the receiving end of the halfback swing pass downfield that went for the touchdown. And they need to get the ball to Bo Corrales, apparently, at North Carolina. That's his 1st career touchdown. So every time North Carolina would get close, of course, Miami would pull away. It was 17-6. It goes to 17-13 on that play. Then DJ Dallas breaks free for 49 yards, breaks tackles, and that's when Braxton Berrios caught the slant TD to make it 24-13. Sheldrick Redwine had a pick in this game. Of course, Michael Jackson had another interception. He's got 4 on the season. Perry with an interception that was big. So Miami gets 4 interceptions. They don't turn that into much points, and it stayed extremely close. North Carolina converts to go 24-19, and then the Travis Homer fumble, and the U was really shaking in its boots at this point. Zach McCloud with the late hit on Nathan Elliott. That gave North Carolina the first down at the Miami 38. But that's when, of course, Joe Jackson made the huge hit on Jordan Brown, who had an exceptional game. Joe Jackson saves the day with the big hit, the forced fumble. Miami recovers. Malik Rozier runs it out with a first down run. And Miami survives 24-19. Okay, the Canes have Virginia Tech next week. Don't look ahead, but it's Notre Dame in 2 weeks, the way the Irish are playing. But most importantly, the ACC's on the line. The Coastal Division with Virginia Tech coming to town. These are 2 very like teams. Right now, based on what I've seen, it's a toss-up game. I think the Hokies and the Canes are both extremely good defenses. Not quite elite defenses. Not top 5 in the country, but top 10 to 15 in that range. But Rozier's got to get better. And what's really alarming, what really good teams do that vie for championships, is they maul a North Carolina team that's shattered with injuries with the running game. Miami either decided they couldn't run or they just flat out couldn't run. It was late in the game and they still had 39 yards rushing. You got to pound the rock against a team like North Carolina when you're trying to protect a lead and your quarterback's as awful as Malik Rozier was in this game. So Miami has to find some answers this week. They've got to be able to run the ball, and Malik Rozier has to take previous performances in which he has played well in the clutch against Georgia Tech and Florida State in particular, and find that magic once again, get back to the fundamentals and delivering the football for Miami to take on and win this big game against Virginia Tech. Two very good football teams, two talented teams, two flawed teams will match up in Miami for most likely the Coastal Division Championship. Would love to hear what you have to say about Miami football as they gear up for the stretch run at 7-0. So despite all the flaws, the Canes march on at 7-0. We'll catch you next time. For more instant analysis, subscribe to my YouTube channel for the very best in college football coverage right here at Mark Rogers TV.